watch some Just Steven?
Yes, please.
You'll subscribe too. You'll subscribe too. You'll subscribe too. You'll subscribe too. You'll subscribe too.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and happy Novemberween, the holiday that is comprised of a extremely delayed Halloween into mid-November so it can meet my deadlines. And speaking of a delayed Halloween, let me show you guys my costume via TikTok. Honestly, I just think that couple costumes are so lame. Like, you had to pick something that was related to you and your partner. You couldn't have picked anything separate. Like, honestly, grow up.
For a great low rate you can get online, go to the general and save some time!
Pretty funny, right? It was my idea. Because I'm funny. But enough of the goofs and gaffs. I know why you guys are here. You've had 2 videos hyping this up, and you're ready for the results of the Scream job log. As you can see, the whole screen is just, I flipped it. I don't know why I don't flip all the videos, because every time I have a sign in the background, it's backwards. So right now it's forward because, yeah, I'm gonna flip it. Because I look at the front-facing camera on my phone because I'm conceited and I'm devilishly handsome, okay? It is what it is. And honestly, quick note about the contest was, it was kind of lame. Like, all the movies kind of sucked. I wasn't really feeling it. But I'm sorry, hello? Oh, the money did come through. All of it? Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. I loved it. Like, that was such a fun contest. I'm so glad I was a part of it. Oh my God. No, I'm joking. All jokes aside, I was so happy to do this. Again, it's like, since I'm already so passionate about movies anyway, why not get paid for it? And every movie was unique. It was so interesting to finally watch some of the classics and, you know, get to know each one of them. So honestly, again, huge shout out to Dish Network for letting me do this. I had a great time. Thank you so much. Pretty much the layout of this video is going to be simple. I'm going to go through all 13 movies, give it a very brief summary of what it was, but not like a full recap, give you some of my most noticeable notes, and also the greats and the gripes with the grade. I want to give you guys like insight on what I was expecting beforehand, how I felt afterwards, and then give you guys a total jump scare counter of how, you know, how many times I jumped. How many times did the movie actually make me go, whoo? You know that feeling when you go, whoo? Whoo? Yeah, that one. Enough talking. Let's get into it. Let's go into the Scream job log. Alrighty then, number 1. The first movie I started off with was The Mist. Reason is because I just recently saw the movie. Before I even knew I was going to be starting the Stephen King contest, before I even applied, I watched it, which I was like, dang, that's going to be kind of fresh in my mind. But that's okay, because I watched it way back when as well, so I kind of knew what was coming anyway. But what I kind of expected from the movie to be a little bit silly. Not silly in the sense of like it's goofy, but I think the movie is kind of like a popcorn horror where it's not really scary initially, but it's just kind of fun to sit around with your friends and go, would you do that? What would you do in this situation? You know what I'm saying? So I put down that I was feeling excited. I expected some raised tensions, and I also expected an insane ending. So, quick summary, the movie The Mist is about mist. A father and son gets locked away in a grocery store with a wide variety of characters, including Raymond Holt, and a huge onslaught of The Walking Dead cast members, mainly because this movie was made by Frank Darabont, who was the original showrunner of The Walking Dead. So this is pretty much just prequel Walking Dead. And fun fact, the main guy, Thomas Jane, who plays David, the main father, he was supposed to possibly play Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead. But let me tell you, I actually am a fan of The Walking Dead, and I think Andrew Lincoln could play David, the dad of The Mist, but I just don't think Thomas Jane could play Rick Grimes. I'm not trying to be rude. It's just the facts. Andrew Lincoln kills it. This is not a review for The Walking Dead. This is The Mist. Let's get back to it, okay? So anyway, I had 2 jump scares. One being when this giant bug hit the window. I have a huge fear of bugs, so that kind of messed me up. And when this dumb hick bumps into a shelf. It was during the scene with the little tiny spiders, and he bumped into a shelf early on. Very loud, made me jump. Ollie was great. You may know him from also like Captain America. Ollie, what a true king. I loved him dearly. But nonetheless, like I said, fun popcorn movie to watch and to laugh at some of the ridiculous antics that these stressed out people are committing. You know what I'm saying? Let's get into the review. The greats were, I would say, actually visual effects. I think the visual effects are actually done well, especially with this movie coming in 2007. I think they're done pretty well. Along with some of their more practical effects, I thought that they were pretty good. I enjoyed it. Which also leads into my next grade of monster design. Yeah, I thought they made really interesting monsters. They looked cool. Granted, you don't really see some of the bigger ones because they're in the mist. But like the smaller little spiders with their weird like skull, like ectoskeletons and whatnot, those are cool looking. Not bad. The conflict was actually pretty well done. I think that they did a good job at raising the conflict. It makes you kind of stressed out. The tensions are rising. They do a good job at that and making you feel the tension and feel the heat of the room of this grocery store. And then lastly, I put down the ending. You guys all know the ending if you've seen it. If you haven't, here's a huge spoiler. David tries to drive off with his son and 3 other people from the grocery store. They're driving off. They go off into the mist to find civilization, find some help. Car breaks down. And they decide, you know what? We got to use this loaded gun, but the gun only has 4 bullets. So what does David do? He shoots 3 of the passengers and his own son, so they don't have to endure the terrors of the mist. And he gets out of the car, goes screaming and crying like, "Come kill me! Come kill me already!" And then the mist clears up, and the military shows up, and he weeps, cries, and realizes, man, maybe that meme was correct. Maybe the meme had a point, and it's unfortunate. I think the ending is pretty devastating. It's horrible. It really makes you go, dang, it sucks. But it's kind of not funny, but it's like a pity laugh. You got to let out like, oh my god, that's messed up. Nonetheless. However, let's get into the gripes real quick. Acting. I don't think the acting was that great, unfortunately. But the thing is, it's not like it's like a huge killer of the movie. Because again, I didn't really come for the acting. I came for some of the wacky scenarios that these grocery store inhabitants get themselves into. And also, I'll say dialogue, like / writing. Some of the writing's just kind of iffy. Like it's not like the writing's not compelling. The way certain of these characters speak, you almost feel like the actors are reading a script rather than it feeling like the characters' own words are coming out. So I will give a gripe for dialogue. And overall rating, I gave it a 79%. It's not a great movie. It's not a masterpiece, but man, is it fun to watch. Miss Carmody's annoying. I was happy when she died. I will say that. Ollie's a king. That's all I can really say. That's pretty much what my notes consisted of. How great Ollie was and how annoying Miss Carmody was. But I knew that going into it, Here's a screenshot of my heart rate. And that's pretty much it for The Mist. 1 down, 12 to go. The screen is flipped, so that looked like 21. 12 to go. All right. Next up is Carrie. Carrie was a personal favorite of mine. I actually did see it as well a while back. The Dish Network gave me the option to watch originals or the remake when there were certain movies like, Carrie, It, and Firestarter and stuff like that. They gave me the option to watch either the original or the remakes. I chose the original for everyone that was an option, simply because some of them not only have I not seen, but I just like the originals a little bit more. I like watching some old film, getting a feeling of where the remakes came from. You know what I mean? So for Carrie, I've seen both already. I've seen already the original and the remake, and I already know that the original was much scarier. So, but when I was going into it, I was feeling a little anxious because the last scene still freaks me out. I think Sissy Spacek, I think that's how I pronounce her last name. I apologize. Who plays Carrie? She's great. She has something about her eyes that are so freaky. She has this long stare that pierces into you that she thinks she does this so well. So I was kind of anticipating that. I was expecting some, horrific visuals and freaky music. I remember the score specifically because it goes like shing, like very loud and stabbing. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So total jump scare counters were actually 5. I had 5 jump scares, One was the sharp music when Carrie threw a child off a bike. Uh, Carrie pushing her mom back on the bed when she was like, "You can't go to prom. Stay with me." She threw her on down. Miss Colleen's death, R.I.P. Because Miss Colleen was also a VIP. Carrie flipping over the car at the end with the bullies. And lastly, Carrie's hand popping out from the dirt at the very end. Quick summary, Carrie's about a young girl who goes through puberty, and in doing so, starts to develop these weird telepathic powers, or telekinesis, and she starts to be able to move things with her mind. And unfortunately, she is bullied at school, which brings her to a tragic ending at her prom. So, after I watched the movie, I would say I felt uneasy because again, you see Carrie's piercing eyes through the screen. So, like, even when the movie's over, I still just saw them. I was like, oof, I get to see her staring at me. I think that the movie was freaky, but what I didn't expect, what I almost forgot, was how sad the movie is just in general. Watching Carrie just want to be normal, and people are just so mean. Which I'll reveal my list later, the Dish Network also asked for a villain's ranking list, and I remember watching and going, who do they consider the villain in this movie? I hope you're not talking about Carrie, because she's not. I mean, granted, it's not like, I mean, don't kill people, but at the same time, I'm like, you dumped pig's blood on me. I might have to kill you, you know what I mean? But thankfully, they considered it was the mom, which I was like, perfect. That makes sense to me. Either that or that stupid teacher who laughed at Carrie for calling Tommy's poem was beautiful. He was like, oh, beautiful? Oh, really? It's beautiful? Is that all you can... I was like, dude, yeah. What is wrong with you? You should be in jail. Like, I don't care. That's jail time. That was so ugly. You're an ugly man. Like, that made me unbelievably mad. That man was definitely a villain. Nonetheless, let's get into the greats and the gripes. Greats, as I said, Sissy's performance. She is just, she was made for that role. She really was. She really had that stare down and that innocence in her voice that really just hurts your heart when you see how poorly she's treated. So yeah, it's a devastating watch. The score, again, stabs you in the ears. The finale, the insane amount of just horror, blood, gore. Like, she just destroys that gymnasium, and they do great. They really do. And lastly, the shots / editing. They use a lot of diopter shots, which is what you'll see in like Us. It's a shot where it's kind of like split down the middle, so you have one character that's kind of up like this, and one character like a little bit further back, and there's like you always see like a little bit of the fuzz in the middle, and they're like kind of two shots merged together. It's very interesting, and they use that a lot in the movie. They do it very well. The movie just looks good. Gripes, I would say, okay, this is an interesting gripe, right? Because I want to explain this, and I don't really know exactly how I feel about it. It's the opening shot, with what you do see is a lot of nudity, and they're like high school girls. And here's the thing, it's like, I try to think where it's like, okay, is this to show off what it's like being a high school girl, in the sense of like, okay, these are their bodies, this is what they deal with, which is in strict juxtaposition of Carrie's period, which is, there's like the beauty and the horror, I guess. I don't know, but the shot seems kind of predatory. It seems like really weird. Like, it's hard to watch. I'm like, these kids are in high school. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did not like the opening shot. It made me uncomfortable, which is like, I know that there's films that's supposed to make you uncomfortable. I think the movie would have been the exact same without that first shot easily. I also put down the mom's acting in the end. It's like she had that evangelical, like, high priestess, like, just really talking with strict biblical quotes, and, you know, you're supposed to get she's like a little bit, you know what I'm saying, like, woo, you know, like something clearly wrong with her. She's a broken woman. At the end, it's like, it's when she's being killed by her daughter. Spoiler, sorry. When you know, that's all going down, she's like, it's like, I'm like, all right, okay. A little bit weird. So it kind of like threw me out of the role. I mean, she was fine throughout the rest of the movie, because again, she's supposed to kind of be over the top and odd, but for this, I don't know how I was feeling that finale with her acting, so it is what it is. But nonetheless, I gave the movie a 93%. I think the movie has just very strong moments of just, again, not only fear, but despair. Like, you just feel so bad for Carrie. It's a great movie, honestly. I highly recommend anybody watch it if you want to be sad. And here is my heart rate data for that. And then we moved on to the Sleep Log 1, which is the first night I slept with The Mist and Carrie in mind. No bad dreams. I was all good. So let's move on to the next day, October 19th, 2022. The third movie I watched was Cujo. Cujo is a movie I've never seen before, so I was very excited to see that because it's kind of an iconic movie. Everyone kind of knows what that is. Like, you hear Cujo, people always make the joke. If you ever see a bad dog, a dog snarling, barking crazy, they go, "Oh my god, look at Cujo over there." You know what I mean? I was excited to finally get a face to the name, you know? So I watched this. I went in feeling kind of curious because, in all honesty, I was like, I can't imagine a dog being that scary. Yeah, I didn't think that I was gonna be like looking at Saint Bernards differently after this movie. I mean, now I will look at like, huh, that's like Cujo, but I'm not scared of any dog. You know what I mean? Just because of this movie. So I kind of expected it to be a little bit funny. like again, how scary is a dog? Here's a quick summary. So, Cujo gets bitten by a bat, and instead of becoming like a cool vampire dog, what it happens is he just gets like rabies, like bat rabies, and he starts going on a rampage. And we have this woman with her child who gets trapped in a car for a long period of time because Cujo is like posted up outside of it. So that's pretty much the struggle of the entire movie: is how is this woman going to get out of her car and get home because the car is broken down. So I only had 4 jump scares. One of them was like, I feel annoyed that this was a jump scare. There was a bit where it goes from a really quiet scene to a clip from Scooby Doo, and it made me jump. Like, I don't know, like this was like the loud intro that made me jump. So I was like, okay, I guess that counts. I feel like it was supposed to be intentionally making me jump, so I was like, I guess that counts as a jump scare, but it was dumb. The second one was Cujo in the car window when he busted through. That made me jump. Cujo back on the hood of the car. Like 2 minutes later, I don't know why it still made me jump. Like, I knew Cujo was out there, and yeah, I still jumped. And lastly, when Cujo jumped through the window at the end and through the kitchen, I was like, man, that boy do not stop. He is mad. But overall, after the movie was over, I was a bit unsatisfied. I really hyped it up in my mind with the fact that, it's Cujo. Like, I finally get to watch Cujo. But I was right. Like, the dog wasn't that scary. I mean, again, there's loud moments that made me jump, but was it scary? Not really. And also, here's the issue: is that I expected more Cujo. And I'm going to circle back as to what also bothered me a bit after I get into my greats and gripes. The greats was the suspense / action scenes, in the sense of, like, while they're trapped in the car. It was like kind of suspenseful. You see this dog posted up. Where's this dog? Like, all of a sudden, when you don't see Cujo, you're scared of where Cujo is. You're like, oh my god, where is he? So that was fun. And the makeup, like, Cujo looked sickly. Like, he looked like he really did need to be put down, unfortunately. Like, he looked bad. So I would say, like, the makeup was decent. But that's pretty much it for the grades. Whereas the gripes was the pacing. Right off the bat, I'm going to be real with you. I feel like this movie was barely about Cujo. Like, this whole time I'm watching this mother, like, cheat on her husband. Yeah, that was almost it, pretty much it. And this, like, random hillbilly dude who's, like, mean to his wife and sucks as a father. And you get, like, snippets of Cujo here and there, like, revving up to what he is. But honestly, you don't get the first kill until, as I wrote down, 40 minutes in. 40 minutes in for a movie that's about, it's like a little less than 2 hours. So I was just really like, really? 40 minutes into the first kill? The build up to Cujo was way too slow. We see the husband who's getting cheated on, his like failing cereal business. Like, I'm like, why are we looking about cereal? Can this dog kill somebody already? Like, I don't know. This is a movie that I think that if got remade, I could see the remake being a little bit better. I think that people could make the pacing a little bit more concise. You know, I feel like we saw way too much of other antics going on other than Cujo. Other gripe was a finale, because after Cujo, spoiler alert, gets shot, the mother finally kills him. R.I.P. Cujo, because I feel bad for Cujo. He didn't mean to get bit. You know what I mean? It just like ends immediately, and I'm like, dang, like that was kind of quick for me to sit around and watch a woman cheat on her cereal making husband for 40 minutes. Like, this is the kind of a quick ending. Like, we wrapped that up kind of boom. Like, I don't know. And then lastly, I wrote off Fatty with no payoff. I felt like the movie had a lot of fat on it. We could have sliced up a lot of the different parts of this movie. Simple as that. So rating, I gave it a 73%. Uh, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of it during the bits that were good. Like there was like it sucked because the parts that Cujo had were shining. Like I could see why people would maybe freak out about this movie way back when because those bits were good. The bits with Cujo freaking out on the car were pretty good, but I just feel like that build up was too much. I don't think that I got anything from it when this is a movie about a infected dog. But again, whatever. You get the point. And here's my heart rate data for that. All right, I only watched one movie that day, so here's my sleep log. And I did have a nightmare, sort of. Sort of. Because I say sort of because it didn't like scare me, but it was highly suspenseful. I had a dream where John Travolta's gang from the movie Carrie following me. He was there, like his crew was hunting me down. Like they were trying to kill me. And I run to this mall, and it's like he's still following me. Everyone's trying to get me, and then I swiped the gun off of one of his crew members, and I killed them all. Like that was kind of crazy. Which I know you guys are gonna look at me like this man's a psychopath because why? How is he saying that's not scary? I don't know. But I would count it as a nightmare because who wants to get chased by those teenagers? Because man, they were psychotic. They literally killed a pig just to torment a girl. Like, you're insane. So, they had it coming in my dream. Oh, I am on a watch list. All right. Moving on to a new day of film on October 21st, 2022. I watched my fourth movie, Pet Sematary, 1989. I never saw the original. I only saw the remake a couple years back, and it was fine. It was a fine movie, I guess. I didn't like the remake that much. But I will say that even though I haven't seen the original, I just kind of had the expectation of sadness because it's called Pet Sematary. So that means you got to put a pet in a cemetery. I knew that I was going to have to see an animal die. So I was like, I'm feeling kind of sad to see what's going to happen in here. I'm tired of seeing animals getting hurt like in Cujo. Come on now. So I expected kind of like some good animal makeup, like our sickly Cujo. And I watched this with my girlfriend Alicia. Which I was kind of nervous to do. I was nervous to watch any movie with her because, like, sometimes I talk a lot when people are sitting next to me, and I was worried that this was gonna like alter my data at all. But honestly, it didn't. I feel like I still got the scares that I needed. It was a lot of fun, so I was glad I did it. Here's a quick summary. A family moves into this house by the road where, unfortunately, their pet gets run over, and the pet is buried because this random man says, "Hey, bury him over there." In this little freaky place I know. They bury him and the animal comes back. But this cat comes back different. The whole movie is pretty much watching this man start to lose his family to not only this creature, but also this insane road that's by the thing. It's a lot that goes on. So getting into the jump scare counter, I actually jumped 5 times. First one being this cat in the tree that jumped out of nowhere. It kind of scared me. There was a body that jumped onto a table. We got because the father's a doctor. We get this vision of this dead man that's like standing in the bedroom. That freaked me out. Church, that's the name of the cat. Church's return. His first time coming back out from the cemetery. And lastly, the cat before the Achilles, like the cat like jumped out so that Gage, which is, oh, here's a spoiler. Gage, the youngest son, gets hit by a truck, which is pretty sad as I expected. And they bury him in the pet cemetery, so he comes back all messed up. So he's ready to start slashing. He's like a little Chucky doll. Slashes Judd in the Achilles, and that freaked me out. I was like, ooh. So I jumped around there. But yeah, honestly, here's the thing. This was a much better movie than the remake. I would definitely recommend this one rather than the later version. I think this movie dives so much better into the concept of depression and grief and how some people are too scared to try to handle their grief, so they'll do anything to cope with it. You know, whether it's drinking or more recently, like holograms, trying to get holograms of loved ones or burying them in a Native American burial ground to bring them back from the dead. Let's get into the greats. I would say the story, as I said, I think that it did have some really decent messages when it comes to grief and how to deal with it or how not to deal with it. And yeah, I think that it really did just kind of hit me in the heart where it's like it's like a really sad movie. But also going into the next great is the horror elements. I think they managed to get a good mix of both, of a sad drama with the horror. What they do so well is also the makeup, which is also another great, especially with the dead kid that comes back to show this doctor what not to do. You know, his like brain is leaking out. They do a really good job at that. Like I'm like, oof. Yeah, so a very good movie. I actually very much enjoyed that. So I ended up rating it a 94%. And here's my heart rate data. All right, and then another night passed with a news for a third sleep log, and I had no nightmares because I'm a big boy, dang it. All right, new day, new movie. The fifth movie is Misery. I have never seen this movie. I knew of it, and I was very excited to watch it because I love Kathy Bates. I think she's so funny. So I was really just like, is this movie gonna be funny? Because I thought she was funny in Waterboy and The Office, and just a whole bunch of different stuff. I know that she was in American Horror Story, but I've never seen it, so I didn't really get that her acting chops of a different magnitude. I only saw her in comedies. So I also watched this with Alicia, but once again, I got the full effect. Let me give you guys a quick summary. A famous writer is at his cabin where he's finishing up his book, and he goes driving back home, and after feeling pretty triumphant because he just finished and he's feeling good, and he is driving like an absolute idiot through this snowy road, flips his car, and he is saved by a psychotic fan who is not a fan of his new book. So she will not let this man leave until he writes a better one. This was honestly, this movie was great. I actually had two jump scares. One with Annie, that's the name of Kathy Bates' character, standing next to the bed when he wakes up, and Annie waking up at the end after she is hit over the head with a typewriter. It was, here's the thing. I think the reason why I didn't really jump that much, because this movie was barely a horror, but easily a thriller. I was on the edge of my couch just so much. It was so suspenseful. Like, my heart was just racing. And let me tell you this is definitely probably my favorite. Like, definitely one of my favorite of this challenge. I had a great time watching it. Like, every scene was paced so well into the next one. There was not a boring time. There was not a point where I was like, okay, let's move it on. It just kept going. It kept going, which almost exhausted me afterwards. I was like, whew. It was a lot. Also, R.I.P. Buster. That was one of the greatest characters. That's a spoiler. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Let me put a spoiler. I'll put a spoiler warning before I say it in editing, so you don't get spoiled. But yeah, so let's get into the greats and the gripes here. Greats was the acting. Kathy Bates killed it, right? Because it's like I did get humor from this, but in the sense of a nervous laugh the entire time. Like, I wasn't like, oh, that's so funny, but more of, oh my god, like, no way, like, oh my god, let's hurry up, get out of there, you're an idiot, don't wheel through her house while she's not there. I'm just like laughing the entire time because I'm so stressed out, which comes from the next rate, which is the stakes. They really knew how to amp up the tension, the horror, the oof. It was just so freaky. Like, I can't even explain it. I'm just gushing about it because honestly, it was just so good and so suspenseful. I loved it. And lastly I already said this before, the pacing. I think that it was paced and stitched together so well that there was no dull moments. Now, for the gripes, honestly, I didn't have any. I thought it was really good. The only thing I was curious about was, you get these news clippings that she's put together about her killing babies. And maybe I need to read the book to understand that a little bit more, but I didn't really understand that. So I wish you kind of maybe explained that a little bit more, but it didn't ruin the movie for me. I only thought about it after the movie was over, like, hey, what was up with the baby killing? I didn't know. But otherwise, no gripes. So with that, I gave it a 98%. Like, that was so good. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it. Again, one of my favorites. Speaking of one of my favorites, let's get into the other one that was my other favorite, shockingly enough. Oh, but before I do it, here's my heart rate. Let's get into my sixth movie, which is Christine. Now, again, I've never seen this movie before, and I read the description when I was getting ready to watch it on accident, and I was like, "What?" Let me give a quick summary. This nerdy boy gets a car that's haunted, and it comes to life, and it starts killing his enemies. And I was like, "Come on now, what is this? How is this a horror?" Okay, sure, let's try it. So what I was feeling beforehand was skeptical. Similar to Cujo, how is a car gonna be scary? What are you talking about here? So I kind of expected it to be like kind of silly. I don't know. Anyway, this isn't the same day, but I was watching it alone. Alicia went to sleep, so jump scare counter. Only one jump scare. There's only one at the very end where the car just Christine's like lights popped on, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was like, whoa, because it was like kind of quiet beforehand. But otherwise, this Herbie Fully Loaded horror film was oddly so good. Like, here's the thing: it's good in a different way. While Misery was a genuinely good movie in the sense of its suspense and elements of surprise, you know, with the thrills that you feel, Christine had a certain je ne sais quoi. Something about it was oddly campy. There was a bit of a silly nature to it, but something about the way that they wrote their characters. Like, we have our main character, Arnie, and it's Arnie and his friend Dennis. Arnie's a nerd, Dennis is a jock, and you kind of fall in love with them. Like, they're great characters where you love their friendship. They're such genuine characters. I had a great time watching them. And you see Arnie starting to go through this weird phase of like Spider-Man 3 emo, like bad boy edginess, due to Christine changing him. And you kind of be like, man, this kid is going through it. You can't look away. I don't know. There's something so genuine about this movie. Maybe it helps the fact that it's directed by John Carpenter, which I love because he did the original Halloween and one of my favorite movies, The Thing. Love that movie. So John Carpenter knows what he's doing. That man, he's got some demons up top, but he puts them on the screen and he's good at it. Let's get into the greats and the gripes here. Afterwards, I was feeling so shocked at how good it was. The greats were, as I already said, the characters. I think Dennis and Arnie were so well written. You really start to feel for these characters. You could tell, like, it's almost like the chemistry between the two were so great that you can see why they're friends. You know, the thrill. It was a thrilling movie. It's like being on a roller coaster that doesn't necessarily have that many highs and lows, but it's fast. It's you know, because usually the ones that are the big drops are scary, but this one was just thrilling, like just a fun time all the way through. You know what I'm saying? And the effects, because John Carpenter, his practical effects are so well done. Again, huge shout out to The Thing. You know how everything was just puppets and bubblegum, pretty much. You know, like it was just so well done. So in this one, there's like a scene where Christina was damaged and broken apart, and she starts to reassemble herself. It looked so good, which I'm a sucker for reassembly scenes, especially from the Iron Giant when he puts himself together. Something about it is so satisfying, and that was definitely satisfying when it started fixing himself. And it really just made you sit like, obviously the clips are in reverse as to how you got the effects, but it looked great. It looked fantastic. So that's definitely a great. Gripes were acting at times. There was never like full blown times where I'm like, oh, like I would definitely say the girlfriend, like Arnie's girlfriend, was kind of like, okay, I don't think you can really act that much. But otherwise, it wasn't a huge deal. And lastly was also Dennis's reaction at the very end when he's finally dead. Oh my god, I can't stop saying spoilers. Hey, future Steven, help me out here.
I mean, obviously, I'm way ahead of you. I've been putting the spoiler sign in front of every time you've been spoiling each of these movies.
Thank you, dude. I'm so sorry. I got a loud mouth.
I mean, it's fine, dude, because, I mean, this YouTube video is over an hour and a half long, so clearly I do too, so it is what it is.
So true. So true. All right, get out of here. This is my video, bud.
Yeah, no problem. I gotta get back to editing the edited footage, so I'll leave you to it.
All right, love you.
All right, love you too.
But Dennis's reaction at the very end, after realizing that. But Dennis's reaction at the very end, after realizing that Arnie was dead, he was kind of like, "Dang, shouldn't have loved that car." And I was like, "Dude, I thought you were like really close." And at the end, they kind of like make like a quick joke, like man, like it was like a kind of like anticlimactic ending at the point where I was kind of like, "Oh, like I feel you guys should be a little bit more sad that Arnie was murdered." You guys didn't. I feel like they didn't really care that much, so that was kind of unfortunate. But otherwise, the rest of the movie was so good, so I rated it a 97%. It was just a cool movie. I think that's like the best way to describe it. Instead of scary, it was just cool. Like, just cool to watch. Had a fun time watching. I recommend it. If you guys are turned off by the fact that it's a killer car, I understand it. Give it a shot, though. I think you might actually enjoy it. Here is my heart rate data for that. All right, then I went to sleep with the sleep log number 4 with no nightmares. Man, oh man. Only one on the roster. Will I have another one? Stay tuned to find out. All right, next day, on October 24th, 2022, we have Salem's Lot. I've never seen it before, but I've heard of it specifically in an Eminem lyric. I didn't really know what it was about. So I was curious because I was like, what is this movie? I didn't even know what the villain was, what like mythical monsters portrayed here. I didn't know. So I was expecting some like maybe like some interesting makeup choices. I don't know. I didn't really have much expectation. So I was excited. I was like, let's check it out. So quick summary. This writer comes back to his hometown and investigates like this house that he always knew as a kid growing up was kind of messed up. And he learns that there's vampires in it. And the vampires are taking out people of the town one by one. Like right when he shows up too. And he's like, dang, that's unfortunate. And he tries to figure it out. Let me tell you this, I didn't like this movie. This one actually might have been my least favorite. Let me check. Hold on. Let me look at the list. Yeah, dude. I think this is my least favorite. But what was frustrating was that in my least favorite one, it had a high jump scare counter with 5 of them. Because I know it was a jump scare, but just because you're loud doesn't make you actually scary, okay? Like, that's what made me so mad. I'm like, this movie's not scary at all, but I keep jumping. I'm a jumpy dude, okay? Oh, so mad. So I jumped 5 times. One time where there's a figure that pops up behind this boy, and he snatches him up in the woods, so that made me jump. Sound of a door barging open when this guy is catching his wife cheating. Lots of infidelity in Stephen King movies, by the way. Another stupid door for number 3. A plumber jumping from a box. Like he was like killed and he like jumped from a box. I almost barely remember that scene. That's how kind of forgettable the movie was. Where I was kind of like, a plumber? I don't know. And then a vampire popping up towards the end. Again, it was just kind of annoying that it was just loud. Like they weren't scary. But let me get into this greats and the gripes here because, man, I got a lot to say about this. First off, what I was feeling after was kind of thankful that it was finally over. This movie was 3 hours long. Like, a little bit over. Like, oof. Let me see, hold on. I started at 1:42 and I ended at 4:46. So like straight up just 3 hours long. It just felt like more than 3. And the makeup wasn't even that good. Like, there was like the main vampire guy. Here's the thing. For the movie being, like, okay, in its defense, it's a mini-series, right? Just like the original it's a mini-series that was broken up into chunks back then, but you put it together as a big movie. But man, like it was just, I feel like I would have been mad watching it as a mini-series. I'd be like, what is going on here? It was just so slow and not enough payoff. So let me get into this greats and gripes here. The greats is there's one singular scene that I thought was pretty good, where there's this boy sitting in the basement of this haunted vampire house, and you can see these turned vampires slowly crawling towards him, and they're coming up on him. Every time the shot cuts away and comes back to the kid, they're a little closer. I was like, that was pretty good. And that's all you're going to get from your movie. That's it. Because now let me get into this gripes here. Acting, not great. I did not like the acting. Yeah, the acting, pacing, horrible. Like, it was so slow for no reason. And here's the thing. My attention span isn't that small, right? I love a slow movie. Like, I think Midsommar is a slow burn movie, but I still very much enjoyed it. And I can appreciate what the slowness can do for film. I think that there's sometimes you really need to take your time to really slow cook the pressure. You know what I'm saying? But this had no real payoff, no real reason to be doing so. So I did not like that. Also, the plot slash writing, I don't know. The writing was just felt like it was like all over the place. I feel like we're just here, we're there, we're just running around this town, but for what? What are we doing here, though? For vampires that kind of suck. There's a scene where the vampire jumps up and just conks his parents' two heads together, like boom, and they die. And I'm like, come on, dude. Come on, dude. So that was great. Again, the jump scares annoyed me because again they were just loud. They weren't scary, just loud. All right, you don't get props for that, for making a loud noise, and as a human reaction I jump. That doesn't count. Not in my book. And again, the length. Well, like I said, it's like, okay, I get it was a miniseries, but I feel like even as a miniseries, you probably could have cut a lot of that out. So rating, I gave it a 65%. Here's my heart rate data. You're gonna see 2 spikes in there. That's because I got up to go pee and go get a snack, and I was kind of like just run like I don't really know why it spiked so much. I don't know what happened there because nothing scared me like that. Yeah, dude, the movie was just so dull. Yeah, 65%. That was a D. My least favorite, to say the least. All right, quick intermission because my phone started running out of memory. All right, same day of October 24th, 2022, with my 8th movie, Firestarter, 1984, the original. And I was expecting some pretty good explosions. Don't call it Firestarter if I can't watch a fire start, you know what I mean? So, I was kind of, waiting for some decent visual effects and maybe some creepy children, because again, we're in a horror film marathon, so I was maybe thinking like, hey, maybe there's gonna be some creepy kids. I expect a kid to start fire with its mind, so I knew it was gonna be kind of creepy, I was thinking. Anyway, quick summary. Kid starts fire with his mind. I mean, it's a father and daughter who are both have psychokinesis. Like the father can make people do what he says with his mind, and the daughter starts fires with her mind. They're both mind people, and they're running from the government because they're trying to scoop up the daughter and use her as a nuclear bomb for America, you know what I mean? Yeah, pretty simple stuff. This is the first movie that had no jump scares. Because I guess I would pretty much say that this is not really much of a horror. If at all, really. It was more of a sci-fi action adventure, I would call it almost. Like, it wasn't really it wasn't scary. Throughout it, I mean, it was just them running from this guy, and then also this like bounty hunter from the government is trying to like convince this girl that he's her friend so she could decide to stay with the government and get away from her dad so she could become their nuclear bomb and stuff like that. But again, it wasn't really that, not even really that. Like, I'm not even saying that it wasn't really that scary. It was just not scary at all. There's no part that was actually kind of freaky, like trippy or horrifying. It was just actiony and sci-fi, which is not bad. It was not a bad movie. I had a decent time. Let's get into these greats and gripes, though. Greats were the visual effects. The explosions looked great, especially for it being made in 1984. The explosions look good, and there's a part at the end where she is kind of in her Carrie moment. I think the main girl's name is Charlie. I think Charlie and Carrie should both hang out together, hopefully in a therapy setting. She was starting to go crazy. She was like, there's points where she was like it was splitting off fire trails, just boom, explosions. Cool scene. And I would say great was like kind of tying in with that one was the shots. I think it was shot well at times. It wasn't like a masterful shot movie the entire time, but there's some times there were some pretty good shots. And lastly, as you heard me geeking about earlier, the final showdown. They did really well. With their effects, it was kind of... Here comes the psychopath Steven again. A little satisfying watching these nameless agents blow up. It is what it is. Yeah, it was fun. But the gripes was kind of was just getting a bit dull at times. Like, I think that they slowed it down sometimes, where I was kind of just like, all right, I already know what you're doing. We don't really have to sit around for that long. But it wasn't as often as like Salem's Lot. Like Salem's Lot was, ooh, like dull. But this one, like, it was just slow at times. But it is what it is. Sometimes movies slow. But again, like I said, I like when movies are slow at times. But I want it to be slow with a purpose. I want it to be like, are you trying to raise tension? Are you trying to let a certain emotion sink in with the viewer? And a lot of times it works for me, but sometimes it just didn't in this. So for rating, I give it a 78%, like a high C. I think it was good, just not great. It just kind of a forgettable action adventure kind of type deal. But like I said, not a bad movie. Here's my heart rate data for that. And here is my sleep log, because I went to sleep afterwards. With, again, not really any movie scary on my mind. It was Salem's Lot and Firestarter, and those two did nothing for me. In the scare aspect. Firestarter was still a decent movie, but neither of them really scared me. So, no nightmares for that night. Alright, next day we got the 9th. 5 plus 4. 5 plus 4. The 9th movie, Creepshow. I've never seen this movie before, and I expected. Oh my god, what time is it? 3:28. It is. You guys know that it's getting darker in this thing. We're in the winter and it's starting to get dark early. Not a fan of that. I love the cold weather, but this is. So yeah, anyway, Creepshow, I expected it to be kind of silly because I knew that it was going to be not a clip show, but a montage of different movies, an anthology. That's the word I'm looking for. 5 separate stories to be told. So I was looking at, like, I thought it was gonna be like campy horror, you know what I mean? Like something that's just kind of silly. I don't know. Anyway, here's the summary: is that again, it's an anthology. There's multiple stories. There's like the starting up story where it's about a kid who's getting his Creepshow comic thrown away, and we get a look into the Creepshow comic, which is where all the stories come from. You get what I'm saying? And one story about like a rich family who has an eccentric aunt that murdered her father, and the father is coming back to kill him. We have another one that's literally starring Stephen King as like a hillbilly who finds a radioactive comet that starts making him grow grass all over him and all over the place. There is a insane man who buries people in the beach and they get drowned by the tide, and then they come back as pretty much just the drowned from Minecraft. We have a story about the Tasmanian devil kind of type deal. Like he's locked away and he busts out of a box and starts to kill a janitor and this crazy man's wife who he's fed up with. You know, the old ball and chain. Get her out of here. Ha. No? Okay. And lastly, there was one about. Oh my god. I'm gagging thinking about it. Story about this man who's locked in his penthouse because there's cockroaches everywhere, and he was like a real Ebenezer Scrooge type deal. So you don't feel bad for him, but it's disgusting. I'm straight up for real gagging because that was such a bad. Anyway, whatever. That's the summary. Well, okay. So let me kind of break it down here. I'm not gonna like go into depth about each story, how I felt about it, but it was kind of like picture Goosebumps for adults. That's what this movie literally was. And it worked. It honestly worked at times. Like the first one was an interesting introduction into what we're gonna see with the whole father coming back from the dead to haunt the daughter that killed him on Father's Day. It was campy. That's what I expected. I was like, So and I had 4. My God, what's wrong with me? I had 4 jump scares, which was there was a hand that popped out of a grave, which was the father's hand. There was the waterlogged zombies that popped up at the end to kill the man that killed him. The Tasmanian devil that popped out of the box. And when it did it a second time, 2 minutes later, it made me jump again. But yeah, honestly, the first one wasn't that scary, but again, it was like kind of campy. It was like, okay, this is fun. The Stephen King short, the one about this hillbilly who finds this meteor that starts making him grow grass everywhere because he touched it. It wasn't scary, but it was oddly sad because here's a spoiler: he keeps on like touching himself. So like he's like ew, touching himself. He keeps touching his body, which is causing more grass to grow everywhere. He's like, oh, stupid. He's like, oh, I keep doing this and that. And you're watching him. It's like it's funny. Like at first, it's funny. Like, oh, this silly little hillbilly boy. He's messing it up. Haha. At the very end, it's the shot where he is laying on the floor. Grass is overgrown over his mouth, his throat, and all that stuff. And he's just laying there, defeated. And he reaches for his shotgun. He's like, please end me. And I was like, wait, pardon? I was like, this started off with Stephen King doing a stereotype, like a farmer boy stereotype almost. Like, it was supposed to be funny, and now I'm sad. I'm deeply troubled. So that was interesting. I mean, I guess I liked it. Like, I don't know, like, but not too scary though. The next one was about the zombies that the guy like kills these people. He buries them neck deep into the sand, and the tide comes and drowns them. It made you extremely claustrophobic to watch. That's for sure. The next one was the Tasmanian Devil one, where there's a man named Henry who hates his wife. His wife is nagging him. You know what I'm saying? And he ends up hearing about this Tasmanian devil that's being trapped inside of a vent at this college that his friend works at. So he drugs his friend and goes over there and lures his wife to come in there and lets the Tasmanian devil kill her. I was like, you know, divorce is an option. I know this is in the 1980s, but like, really, I don't know. I feel like there's other ways to go about this. Both times when the monster jumped out, it freaked me out a little bit. Like it definitely caught me by surprise. It was definitely a puppet, and you know what? The puppet didn't look bad. It's like, again, it's the campy Goosebumps elements where it's not like it's a actually scary looking creature, but it's like, oh, okay, like you guys put some work into this thing, and you did a good job. And the last one was the bug one. Like, I swear to God, I'm not being, well, maybe I guess you could say I'm being dramatic, but it's all real. Like, these are genuine gagging that I actually found it's very hard to watch this one. This man is just being tormented by these cockroaches. Like, he just keep running around all over the place, and he can't get out. And he's calling the exterminator. They're not showing up for him. Granted, he was a horrible person, so I was like, it is what it is. But there's the scene at the end when he tries to go into his escape room. They kill him, obviously, and they start crawling out of his mouth, and his skin start coming out. I'm gonna move on. I swear to I'm about to vomit. So what I felt afterwards, I thought it was gonna be silly, but that last one left me just nauseous and antsy. Like, I was genuinely seeing like bugs everywhere, and there's no bugs in our apartment, and I thought I was seeing them everywhere. I was like, ooh. I was having a hard time. Yeah, and there were some real scares in that. So honestly, like I said, the movie was actually pretty good. I grew up loving actually Goosebumps, and I actually really enjoyed. There was another Netflix original called Creeped Out, which was definitely inspired by Goosebumps. I mean, I would have to say it had a Goosebumps vibe to it. It was an anthology series of children getting their comeuppance in certain ways, and yeah, I mean, it felt like Goosebumps. So I oddly enough enjoyed it. So this is definitely that. If you like Goosebumps, I highly recommend this movie. Getting to the great and the gripes, I'll say the editing. It was kind of edited really well because, again, this is all supposed to be stories inside of the comic book of the child in the beginning who his father threw away his comic, which he got his comeuppance because the kid bought a voodoo doll from the comic and stabbed his father repeatedly. Yeah, it was edited like a comic book, though. So each time one of the segments ended or began, it started off with a cool like comic book shot, and times when it was supposed to be like a jump scare, it would go brrr, like the frame had a cool comic book layout. It was really cool. I really liked it. Next was the practical effects. Like I said, I think the monster, like the Tasmanian devil, looked good. The makeup for the dead waterlogged zombies, I'm gonna keep calling them because they were drowned, those really cool. And I guess the cockroaches look good. I think they did well because it made my skin itch, and I showered for 3 hours straight afterwards. And the story was good. Like I said, I love Goosebumps, so this was a lot of fun. Each story built up a little bit. I think they had a really good order with which stories came which. Like the first one was very mild, and we ended up on a actually grotesque story. So I give it props on that. Gripes, however, I put down that the first story was kind of weak. But again, as I'm like kind of like thinking back at it again, it was a build up. So it was not necessarily weak, but just weaker in comparison to the other ones. You know what I'm saying? So not really a full-on gripe, but I wrote it down. But nonetheless, it didn't kill the movie at all. I still enjoyed the build-up. It really showed you what you were supposed to be getting into, and it only got worse from there. So I gave the movie a 96%. I actually really enjoyed it more than I expected. In this marathon, there were some unexpected bangers, and I would definitely say that was one of them. When it comes to the horror elements, it does that well. It was slightly comedic, it was campy, it was fun, and it makes me want to rip my tongue out. So, I think it did what it had to do. Here's my heart rate data for that. And here's a special sleep log I call it sleep log 5.5 because when I watched it, it was right before I left for work. So it was in the morning. I took a nap before work because I was feeling kind of tired. But I only wrote it down because I did have a nightmare, which was oddly enough, it was a weird amalgamation of Creepshow and Salem's Lot, shockingly. Even though Salem's Lot wasn't scary, but it was definitely some inspired bits of it. So you can hear how the marathon is infecting my dreams. In this dream, I was not even in it remotely. I dreamt of a new segment from Creepshow where there's an investigator who is trying to understand why there was this man who died suddenly in his bed one night next to his wife. And he was like, what's going on here? And the wife of the man who just died was like, I don't know. He was perfectly fine. I don't know what's going on. But the investigator's like racking his brain, but all he remembers is that when he went to the crime scene, it smelled like paprika. And he was like, what? Why? Why does it smell like that? Whatever. He goes home to his own wife. And when he goes back to his wife, she's cooking. Her back is like turned to him, and she's cooking, like doing that. And he smells paprika. And he's like, wait a minute. And then the wife, quick turnaround, and it's the widow from before. And she's apparently a shapeshifter vampire thing. So that's where the Salem's Lot comes in. She kind of looked like the vampire from Salem's Lot. She was like a vampire. She pulled her husband's heart out of his chest the night before, and now she was trying to do it to him. So that was odd. I mean, first off, how do you not know his heart is missing? I don't really know what the ethics of it was, but so I was like, dang, that's definitely a nightmare. Because her face was actually kind of freaky looking. Like, it was actually scarier than the vampire from Salem's Lot. So it kind of startled me awake. So I would say, yeah, that was definitely a very effective nightmare. So 2 nightmares down. So as I said, I went to work, and I came home, and I watched my 10th movie, It, 1990, the original. And I have seen this movie. Just making sure the government's not listening. I did watch it on bootleg. I had an app on my phone that let me watch the original. So I hope that doesn't ruin my chances of fame in the future, or when I run for president. And so I watched the entire thing on my phone, like my old Samsung phone. So the quality wasn't even that great. Like I said, it was bootleg. So I said I saw it, but I was like, this is my first time actually watching it because I downloaded it on Amazon, so I could actually watch it in the quality it should have been. So I was feeling excited. I was excited to rewatch it and see did it hold up, because I remember liking it when I was younger. I was probably 14 when I did this, when I first watched it. So I was excited, and I was expecting maybe some interesting practical effects, because again, you can't do what you do in the remake, with the CGI. So what are you gonna work with? Let's check it out. Quick summary for people who may not know: it's a movie about a group of kids who discover a clown is eating people because the main kid's little brother gets eaten by him, chomped on up. And so they go beat up this clown the first time as a kid. They shoo it away, and they say, promise me you guys are going to come back later when it comes back. And they do, except for one of them, R.I.P. I'll get into that later. And they beat up the clown again. Yeah, as you expected. So yeah, let's get into it. Jump scares, only 2. There was only one there was like a tunnel vision part where you see Pennywise as a floating, like the deadlights as the orb flying through the tunnel, but it was like really just loud, so it kind of made me jump. And the next one was there was a scene where Pennywise is breaking out Eddie Bowers from the psych ward, and he turns his head to a dog. And the barking, like, it like threw me off. I was like, wait, what? I don't know why I just jumped from that. So there's that. This movie's the same as Salem's Lot because it was originally a miniseries. So this movie's about 3 hours long, right? And definitely does it way better than Salem's Lot. Like, I feel like the pacing was much better. Things are moving steadily. I was definitely entertained all the way through. Like, there's not really parts where I was like, this sucks, or like, let's move it along. I felt it was done very well. But it's interesting because it really does raise the point of which one did I like better? Did I like this one or the remake? I'll get more into that when I have to watch It Chapter 2 because that's still like a separate movie. So they had me watch either the original or the first part of the remake. I decided to watch the original It, and then I watched It Chapter 2. I didn't rewatch the first It remake. Just because I wanted to compare both Pennywises. But let me tell you this, as I get into this review, the great is Tim Curry. Tim Curry is very good as Pennywise. He really brings his A game, and it's hard to debate whether or not his or Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise is better because they're both so good. Like, it's like debating like who's best. You know what I'm saying? Or like, you know, like thinking about like with Spider-Man, right? With Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, like who's better? Who is this? But all three of them bring a special flair that the other ones didn't. And that's the same way with Tim Curry and Bill Skarsgård. So anyway, also was the comedy. It was very funny. You know, I think Richie's character is much funnier in this version than he is in the more updated one. It's funny. So is Pennywise. This Pennywise is much funnier than Bill Skarsgård's, that's for sure. Tim Curry, it's like, it kind of makes him a little less scarier, but he's so much more fun to watch. I will be honest with that one. And lastly is the chemistry. I see more how these guys were friends in the original than they were in the remake. Like, the remake, they had some good kid chemistry. It was decent. But, like, you could really tell that they're friends. And granted, with it being 3 hours, you get more time as these kids. You really get that Stand By Me effect of these kids are coming together and venting to each other. And I feel like you get the really raw chemistry. And when they come back to fight Pennywise, they seem like better friends. When they're eating in the Chinese restaurant, they're doing, I don't know, I like them better together than I did in the remake. You could definitely tell why they're friends. Whereas, and sometimes in the remake, I'm like, do you guys really even like each other like that? But you could tell that they do in the original. Getting into the gripes, Beverly's writing. We're gonna have to talk about the issue of writing women, because it seemed like Bev was way too much written as an item in the eyes of the men that were in that group. So at times it's just like I didn't really feel too much of her character development. Beverly was obviously much better as a kid because as a child, before she starts like there's like a scene when she was adult, she starts kissing, like she kissed like 3 of them like randomly, and I'm like not even like really cheek ones. She like does a long kiss with Billy or Bill. And he's married, and it's just like so odd. I'm like, what are you doing, girl? Get a grip. And she kisses Ben. And I'm like, okay, it's all right. We don't have to be kissing everybody. Whereas when Beverly was a child, thankfully, we don't get scenes like that. Whereas instead, we get her being a kid more, and you get more of that sense of character. Whereas I feel like they kind of stripped that a little bit. They lost that momentum when she's an adult. So Beverly's writing was a bit of a gripe for me. And next up was the ending. I feel like it's hard to figure out how to wrap up the scene where they literally jump him, like they curb stomp him. Like you in the remake, they bully him into death. They bully him to death. Whereas this one, they don't do that. It's straight hands immediately. Like they pelt him with a slingshot, and then they curb stomp. They just start beating on him. They're kicking him, and I'm like, wait, what? So there's times where I was kind of like, the ending was a little bit goofy. So I didn't really know how I felt about it. And then it ended kind of quickly right after that. But not bad, though. It wasn't like a terrible, terrible ending. Like I said, sometimes it was just a little bit goofy. It is what it is. But here's the thing: is that it didn't, like I said, it didn't kill the movie. I say that often because sometimes I have gripes, but these gripes aren't like movie-shattering gripes. So I gave this movie a 92%, like an A minus. I think that it was fun. It was a great time. I enjoyed it all the way through, even if it was 3 hours. I think they filled up that time very nicely. Tim Curry is great, and there's some decent scares. It's not as scary as the remakes, but it's more trippy than scary. Like he's definitely trying to make you think that you're going insane, and I think it works. So good movie all around. Here is my heart rate data for that, and then I went to sleep. All right, day passed with October 27th. I then watched It Chapter 2, the remake. And so, yeah, so pretty much the summary is the same here. Because what happens is, for this 3 hour miniseries original It, half of the movie is dedicated to the kids, half of the movie is dedicated to the adults, whereas obviously for It Chapter 1 and 2, Chapter 1 is dedicated to the kids, Chapter 2 is dedicated to the adults. So pretty much what I was rewatching is the remake of the second half of the original It. Granted, I mean, like, if I had more free time, I would have rewatched the It Chapter 1, but I was really, it's the 27th, so I was in crunch time because I was supposed to finish before the 31st, and I didn't start until the 18th because that's when all like my Fitbit and all that stuff got delivered. So I was a bit in crunch time, but I remembered It Chapter 1. I remember rewatching it a while back, and I actually liked it. But I will tell you this though: I've seen It Chapter 2, and I didn't like it as much, unfortunately. Granted, I will tell you, maybe I was affected by the fact that I was watching it in 4D. So every time they went to the sewer, you smell Pennywise's his just straight up gooch. It was disgusting. Or when he bit a child's face off, it would spray you in the face. I had like a whole TikTok talking about it. I'm not gonna put it here because I don't want to waste too much time, but you can check it out. It's you see like yeah, whatever. Did it hold up in my head as still like mid? Like honestly, like yeah, that's what it was. It was kind of mid. It wasn't bad, but I didn't like it. Whereas the chapter 1 was much better. So I was like, hey, let's just hop on into it. There's 2 jump scares, similar, just like the original. Whereas there's one with the balloon under the bed, where Eddie Bauer trying to pull the balloon under, and it pops, and then there's the dead kid underneath it. And then Paul Bunyan. Paul Bunyan made me jump when Richie's looking around, and all of a sudden there's a Paul Bunyan's like, that made me jump. Overall, it was fine. I still felt the same that when I watched it the first time. I wasn't super into it. I wasn't as disappointed as I remembered, but like I said, it wasn't great. So for the review, the greats was Bill Skarsgård. Like I said, he brings his A game as well. There is just why pit 2 queens against each other? They're both fantastic. I think they're both great in their own rights. Another great was the effects. Because here's the thing: is I think that this Pennywise is scarier because they really know how to use the CGI to amp up some of the scares around them. There are some decent horror elements. It's edited very well, suspenseful. It definitely gets my heart pumping a little bit more than the original does. So I give it props on that one. And then lastly, it was a cute sentiment at the end with the finale. They're reading the story about Stanley, who killed himself because he didn't want to go toe-to-toe with Pennywise again, understandably. And yeah, you see like a cute sentiment of the adults looking at their kids' self and talking about we're going to be friends forever. And I thought it was sweet. I like the ending. Definitely, I like the ending a little bit better than the other one. But let's get into gripes, though, because one of them is similar to the other one. Bev, again, I feel like the adult Bev loses that momentum. I think she was a powerful character when she was younger, but again, I sometimes just feel like the older Bev is used too much as the apple of the eye of Ben/Bill instead of being her own character. Like, you see her fight off her abusive husband in both movies, but after that point, she's just kind of like, she's stale. Like, everyone has a very strict character features. Bill's like the leader. He's he stutters when he's scared, and but he knows how to ask for help. It's very interesting. Ben, he was bullied. Oh, listen. First off, bullied for being a fat kid, right? Which how do you act in that role? Because there's a part where Pennywise like, you fatty fat, you are a dirty little fat fatty piggy boy. Like, and Pennywise is saying that to the adult version, but how is the kid version? The actor, hold on, let me look at this boy's name. Jeremy Ray Taylor. Bro, I hope you're good. I hope you're good. Yeah, because listen, I'm a chunky boy too. I got a little gut right there, and us big boys gotta stick together because why they do it like that? Like Pennywise is just going in on him, and even though he's talking to the adult version, it's like that kid still got I don't know, man. I don't know. They were kind of hard on him. Whatever. And nonetheless, back to what my gripe was. Beverly just seemed like too much of a like supposed to be like just a love interest. I felt like her character wasn't discerning. You know, we have Richie, who is like he's a comedian, he's a jokester. Stanley is a little bit of a scaredy cat. He's very he's very precise about how he does things. Eddie is a hypochondriac. He's neurotic, but Bev is just like, what are you? Because again, as a kid, you were abused by your father. You can tell that you're suppressing who you are because you're scared of what your father was going to do to you. I completely get it. And that was interesting. But as an adult, and you see that you accidentally married your father again, you're like, how could I have fallen for that? And it's sad. But then I just feel like the momentum dropped for her writing, and it was unfortunate. I think Bev could have been written better in both iterations of the original and the remake. Next gripe was the chemistry. Again, I feel like the chemistry was not as good as the original. Like when they're all eating Chinese food and they're laughing and joking, it just didn't give that same warm feeling as the original did. I will say that. And then lastly was the last showdown. It's kind of silly. Like they're just like, you're nothing. You're a mimic. Like, okay, you're just bullying him until he turns to a little shrunken testicle. Like, I don't know. It was just kind of weird. I don't know. It was an interesting ending, to say the least. Sorry, I'm just fiddling with something. I don't really know what to say about it. I debate that ending often every time I see it because I'm just like, how do I feel about that? And honestly, it's a little goofy. So I gave this movie an 84%. It's not a terrible movie. There's some shining moments. There's some scary moments, I will say. There's some moments that are freaky. But I like the It Chapter 1 better, and I will say that I like the adult version of the original better than this remake. But again, it's not terrible. It's not the worst movie. Here's my heart rate data. And now, we're moving on to our final two movies, which, unfortunately, spoiler alert, it's The Shining. I'm watching the second to last, and it sucked because I wanted The Shining to be the last movie, but Dr. Sleep came out, and since I had to watch Dr. Sleep, I was like, I can't watch Dr. Sleep first, and then The Shining, because I haven't seen either of those movies before. The Shining, I wrote it down as I haven't, because I tried to watch it a while back, and I fell asleep. It was kind of late at night, and the first bit of The Shining is kind of calming. Like, you see all these the scenic trees and whatnot. It's I kind of put me to sleep. So not that the movie was boring, it just that those first bits were not good to see late at night. So unfortunately, I had to watch The Shining second to last rather than the last movie like I wanted to. It is what it is. So anyway, I went into this movie excited because I was like, this is a classic, an iconic movie. I'm excited to see how I feel about it. I expected some great horror, and I will say that I got some good horror. And I feel like there's a lot of film bros who are ready to chop down my door and hit me with an axe if I say anything bad about this movie. But I think that the main issue here was that it's hard growing up hearing how iconic this movie is with expectations through the roof, and I think they were a little bit too high. I will just say that. Here's a quick summary, by the way. A man, his wife and kid go to this grand hotel because, not the Grand Budapest Hotel, but a different one. He's doing this side job of watching the hotel. He's a writer because Stephen King loves writer characters. There's a lot of them I've noticed throughout this marathon. Almost everyone's a writer. He goes to write his next story and he starts to lose his mind because he's in solitary pretty much with the worst people to be trapped with. Your family, disgusting. Ugh. So he loses his mind. He goes on a rampage. That's pretty much how the movie goes. And the movie's called The Shining because the boy has a gift. He's telekinetic. He could send messages with his mind to another man who has a gift called The Shining. That's why it's called that. Two jump scares. There was the twins in the hallway, which it's like I saw the boy riding his bike through, and I'm like, I know the twins are there because that's also the thing, right? Same with The Sixth Sense. Like I knew what the plot twist was when I finally watched it for the first time. It was still a really good twist. I love the way they set it up, but it's like you knew it was coming, and that's the same with The Shining because easily it's one of the most referenced movies in other movies. Like you always see like twins. Like if you see twins, they're gonna be freaky. Like you see like Simpsons or something like that. Like those kids being creepy, twins being creepy. So I knew they were coming, but for some reason it still scared me anyway. And when Jack kills Dick, that's the other guy with the Shining. When he pops out from behind the pillar and stabs him in the gut. R.I.P. King. Not Stephen King, the other King, King Dick. I'm never gonna say that phrase again. Anyway, here's my thoughts. Like I said, I was satisfied that I finally saw the movie, and I overall think that I understand why it's a horror classic. I think it has some very great basic horror elements, but it didn't blow my mind like I thought it was. Like how some people talk about it's like one of the greatest movies ever. Unfortunately, it didn't like blow me away. It didn't I don't know. And again, I think the issue was that I was expecting way too much. But getting to the greats and gripes, I think it had great cinematography. I will absolutely say that. In a filmmaking standpoint, it's shot very well. It better be for what Stanley Kubrick put all the actors through behind the scenes. Yeah, you better have gotten a good shot. The score was very good. It really amped up the suspense and the overall sense of dread throughout the entire hotel. Very good on that aspect. And the effects, awesome. Like, it's insane how they managed to make like the blood flying through the hallways. Ugh. Or the old moldy lady that comes out of the tub, like she looked disgusting. Good effects, I would say. Gripes was first off, you might call me a bit of a sensitive, but that racist line randomly, I like to point it out. They were like, I heard that your boy's talking to I'm not gonna say the word that he said because he said it hard R, the hardest of R, but he was like he's talking to one of those. And Jack Nicholson says it back. He's like a hard R, and I'm like it's like on one hand I'm like I get it because like the ghost that Jack Nicholson was talking to was clearly from old times. So like, but sometimes again I'm like that line didn't need to necessarily be there. I don't know. Maybe someone could tell me maybe it needed to be, but I was like I could have used without it. I will be honest. I could have used without it. Maybe I'm biased, but maybe I could have used without it. Okay, excuse my hair. But quick editor's note. I had to do some research on it because I felt like I was like, why was that line in there? So, and sometimes if there's one thing about me is that I will most definitely look up the explained for a movie I don't understand. I don't see that there's anything wrong with that because I feel like what it is kind of like opening up a discussion. Like if you watch it alone, it's nice to kind of open up to see what else other people thought. And I heard some interesting points of people saying that the point of that line, along with you do see in the earlier parts of the film talking about the Native American artwork and like how they had to that was taken and whatnot. I think that they brought up points of like colonialism and like white supremacy, and I was like, okay. I mean, and the fact that the final photo of the film with Jack in it had like all white people in it, so I was like, okay. I mean, if that's what he was going for, I mean, I think it's interesting. That bomb didn't really drop. I didn't really pick up what he was putting down in that movie. If that's what was the purpose of it, I don't know. I think there's other movies that kind of do it for me a little bit better, where I understood it a little bit more. For this one, it kind of went over my head. If that was what the intention was, I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think. But I mean, I'll still keep the gripe there. I mean, yeah, I think that it's hard for me not to look at it, like I said, in that lens of like, why is that line in there? But you know, it is what it is. You know, film is subjective, and for me, subjectively, it just didn't really drop like it was. But I'd love to open up a discussion if anyone else would got anything different from the movie. So, back to the video. Next was the opening font. I thought the font was like kind of ugly. I don't know why like they use that weird like blue font. I thought it was kind of ugly. I didn't really see like I don't know if there was a specific point to it, but I think they could use a different font. Oh, and lastly was what was up with Jeeves? The dude getting his rocks off with the dog mask man. Again, I had to read an article where they're talking about what it was meant because like in the books it makes sense. I didn't read the books. I can't read. This is all just gibberish. Wouldn't that be such a funny plot twist? It's like all just like nothing, just scribbles. That's not funny. What am I talking about? That was stupid. Anyway, that scene just feel like it didn't make it ruined my momentum because it's a scene when we have Shelley Duvall's character Wendy running with her son, like trying to get out of there, and she runs up and sees that in the door, and I'm like, did I see that right? So it threw me a little bit. Like it definitely threw the suspense off for me a bit. Like I know it's probably paying homage to the book, but I think that was a clip that maybe I would have cut out me personally to keep things kind of coherent. I know you're trying to go like off of like obviously things are going insane in there, but it didn't work for me. I would say that. But yeah, but nonetheless, it wasn't a bad movie. It was a basic good horror movie to me, and maybe I got to rewatch it and try to like look at it in the lens of what people may have been seeing that made it so great, but it was still a good movie. So I gave it a 95%, like a basic A. Not out of fear of going lower because I was afraid like the film bros were gonna kill me, but like I genuinely just felt like it was a basic good movie. Like I see why it's a great building block for if you're gonna be working in horror, you have to see it. You know what I mean? I think that it makes sense. Here's my heart rate for that. And sleep log 7 with no nightmares. I did write down though, I did have like a bit of an anxiety-induced dream where I had a dream that I saw in my list that I was missing a movie. And it freaked me out because towards the end of October I had a lot going on, like a Halloween party and stuff like that. So I was like really like, oh crap, I'm cramming these movies. And if I had to have one more movie thrown in there, I was like, I'm ruined. So that was scary. Alrighty then, my final movie in my marathon, Dr. Sleep, number 13, the old 1-3, on October 28th. So, I've never seen this movie before, as you may know. So I was feeling excited because it's my last movie, so I was definitely really hyped up. And I was very excited to see like how it connects with The Shining, because I love a good sequel. I love connected. I think connected universes could be a lot of fun if done well. This is not really like a connected universe. It's straight up just the young boy, Danny, grown up from The Shining. So it's straight up a sequel. But yeah, I was expecting some references and callbacks. I was like, let's see how it goes. Quick summary: Danny has grown up, and he's become Dr. Sleep. That's where the title comes from, because he helps old patients who are passing away from old age go to sleep. He helps them have nice dreams and talk it through as they pass on to the other side, which is very nice. He's using his shining ability while being mentored by the ghost of Dick, Ghost Dick. Dang it. Yeah, and Dick like helps him out with that, and then but then one day he gets a calling with his shining that another girl with a very powerful shine named Abra Kadabra, Walakazam, whatever her name was. Abra, she's in trouble because there's a woman named Rosie the Hat who's going around trying to suck up the shine out of people because it makes her more powerful and they live forever with a group of like vampiric shine suckers. So she's trying to find this girl, so Danny embarks on a quest to help her out. This is the second movie that had 0 jump scares. I did not jump once. And let me talk to you as to why. The issue with this movie here was the fact that you can't try to make a jump scare out of the old movie's jump scares. You know what I mean? Because the times you were trying to do a jump scare was like this with the old lady in the bathtub or the twins in the hallway. And I'm like, I saw this already. I knew that was coming. Why would you try to use the same one? it wasn't a terrible movie. I didn't like it. I did not like this movie, unfortunately. That was a bummer. Because it was my last movie, I didn't want to really end off on this note, but I will be honest, I wasn't really a huge fan of it. It was my worst. It wasn't my worst favorite, but I will put it at the second to last. And maybe I'll put this one and then Cujo. I think that's how I'd put a ranking. I'll do an official ranking at the end once I can really kind of gather my thoughts here. But let's get into the review here because I really want to talk about this. Greats were the sweet death scenes of him like making the older people pass away. I thought it was cute. I like when film makes death a little bit less scary because I don't like trivializing death, like making it something that's scary because there is some scary elements, but I don't think that it needs to be feared. And I like the way that they handle it in that scene. I thought it was sweet. Next up was some of the effects, like the rotating room, or when they're flying. Some of the flying effects. I thought that was kind of decent. Kind of like trippy effects. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. But that's pretty much it. Because the gripes were the acting. The acting wasn't fantastic, unfortunately. Like with really anybody, like no one really, no pun intended, shined to me on screen. Also, another one was casting, right? Clearly, you weren't going to get Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson back to look the exact same way as what they did back from The Shining because, they're older. I get it. It's fine. But, man, who they casted was just not right, in my opinion. Like, Shelley Duvall's actress, is that she was putting on a voice, whereas, like, you can tell that that's how Shelley talked back then. But, like, the Wendy's actress for Dr. Sleep was like, oh, Danny, don't do that to me. It didn't sound right. She didn't. And what made me upset was, I feel like the person that played Wendy was just like, she looked like they were trying to get somebody who just like could wear a black wig. Like the comparison was completely off. They didn't have the same teeth, the same eyes. Like granted, I know we weren't gonna get a clone, but I just feel like they didn't really try on that one. Same for Jack Nicholson. Same for Jack. That didn't look like Jack remotely. Like, not even remotely. Like, I feel like you could even use makeup to your advantage to slightly morph the face to make him look like them. I just don't think they tried. It didn't seem close, almost. I don't know. So that was unfortunate. It took me out because I was really staring. I was like, who are these people? You guys do not look remotely like it. They just threw a jacket on Jack, his iconic jacket, and they gave the actor for Wendy a black wig and said, do it. I don't know. It's not my problem. Go. That's what it felt like. Last intermission, because my phone is again losing storage. God, it is getting dark out. Man, it is 4:30. Are you kidding? Oh. All right, anyway, sorry. Next was the too many callbacks, actually. Well, I was definitely expecting it. Of course he's going to have to, and he went back to the original hotel. There's going to be some callbacks, but it's like, for the first bit of the movie, it's clearly its own. We have Rosie the Hat, which I think she was like my least favorite villain. She was bad. She was not a convincing, scary, interesting villain in my eyes. She looked ridiculous in that hat. There were just a bunch of like vampire. I don't know. I didn't like them as a villain or her. I wasn't really convinced as like, that goes back to the acting gripe. I felt like she was like, I hate when a character's like kind of like acting seductive, like, oh, what is this? Ooh, like I don't know, like I didn't like him. So I wasn't really into Rosie the Hat. So, but like here's the thing is that we'll give props in the fact that it was clearly its own movie at first. Danny's going through his own troubles. This is his own sequel. Things are going back, but as soon as we go back to the hotel, it's like we stop the movie to stroke the ego of the first one. We're not really watching a sequel anymore. We're watching almost an edit, like a fan-made movie to tell me why you should love The Shining rather than love in this own movie. And I did not like that. I felt like I was like, I might as well just go rewatch The Shining again. So I put that as another like gripe, as a tonal shift, because at first it's kind of like a horror, and we instead it's kind of like this movie almost feels more like an action adventure type deal. Like I feel like we're just watching him like try to get this girl back. She was kidnapped by Rosie the Hat and her gang. I don't know. This movie, it felt like it was a lot of things going on that it just didn't really know what to do with it. I think that it was scared to try to fill the shoes of a movie that was seen as a pivotal, iconic movie of the movie industry, and it doesn't know how to land that plane. It really set it up, and it didn't know how to. It didn't know how to walk in the same footsteps as this movie, but instead, what it does is again stroke the ego, try to talk nice and show, wow, that other movie was real good. But buddy, tell me why this movie is good. Don't tell me why that other one was. Tell me why this one I should be watching it. I feel like I didn't get that answer, unfortunately. So I gave this movie a 68%. It was a high D. Still made well. And still interesting at times. It didn't have me, unfortunately. It didn't have me in its grasp, and which I really was looking forward to it, especially for it being my last movie. But it was not fantastic. I wasn't super into it. Here's my heart rate for that, and on my final sleep log of number 8, no dreams, no nightmares. So, and that does it, folks. That is all 13 movies. So for a little brief results list, I was told to rank the villains, and from first to last, on the scare list of scariest number 1 and least scary to number 13, the official villain ranking. Let's start from the bottom. 13, Rosie the Hat. She wasn't scary remotely. She was just going around and sucking up people's shine. That's why she killed children for it. She wasn't scary. It was nothing really. I wasn't scary. 12 was John Rainbird. That is the man that was from Firestarter, the man who was trying to lie to this child to get her to stay with the government to become a weapon. He was only scarier than Rosie because, like, he was just a human, but he was scary because I don't trust him 50 miles from a school. I don't like the way he was kind of like trying to get her to stay. It was really odd. He was like, oh, like, we're friends, right? I'm like, you're like 60, dude. Bro, let's chill out. Like, well, whatever. Like, obviously I'm joking, but in the sense of like, okay, but it's scary how quick he is to lie to this kid and get him on the side. So I would definitely say that's scarier than Rosie, which says something. How can a vampire, a literal like super powered shining sucking vampire, be scarier than a dude? I don't know. Rosie wasn't scary. 11 was Kurt Barlow. Kurt Barlow was the vampire from Salem's Lot. You're only scary because your makeup was goofy, and I don't know. Like, you're scary in concept. Like, I hope you don't conk my head together with another person and kill me. There's some decent jump scares attached to your character, so I will give you those scares, I guess. Because, sure, you got it. You're number 11. 10 was Gage. Gage William Creed. That's the little boy, zombie boy from Pet Sematary. He wasn't scary. It's freaky that it's small. Same for Chucky. It's kind of like if a squirrel started attacking you. It's like I have a hard time getting a foot up on you or a leg up because I'm like, you're tiny. And also it's scary because it's your son. I understand the emotional trauma of trying to fight your son. So I would say that he was scary, but he was still a child, so it wasn't really that scary. But yeah, I gave props nonetheless. Number 9 was Margaret White. Margaret White is Carrie's mother from Carrie. Margaret wasn't that scary, but it's scary how messed up you are. It's scary how you treat your daughter. I couldn't imagine getting thrown into the closet by my mom like that. You're scary in ideals. So I put you like decently at 9 because you're just scary unhinged, more like it. 8 was Mrs. Carmody. Now, Mrs. Carmody, I will say, is actually a pretty decent villain in the sense of the way you can rally a group. I feel like, a lot of people can see, like, how fear can rattle somebody, how someone could weaponize fear to work in their favor and cause some major damage. Clearly, some people could relate politically. I'm not going to get into that, but I think politically, you understand who I'm talking about. And also, I think that's what Halloween Kills was going for, with the mob of people looking for Michael and killing the wrong person. fear is a huge tactic that could be used by someone who wants to be a group leader. You know what I'm saying? And I think that was scary how well she did it. So yeah, I think that that's scary. You know what I mean? Number 7 is Christine. Granted, she still kind of managed to not really be too scary because it's a car. There's a scene where Christine chases that kid down in the alleyway and smashes into him at the end of a wall, and I'm like, that would suck. I mean, car accidents suck. So wouldn't it suck if the car accident was intentional? I guess like if it's a straight up car. I'm not gonna be able to beat a car, you know. So I'm like that's scary. Sure. 6 is Cujo. Cujo and Christine are kind of similar in the sense of both movies I went in like, how can a car or a dog be scary? Cujo is scary because like Saint Bernards are big, so it would be scary to try to fight off a rabid like hopped up virus dog like that's just thirsting for blood. Like I don't know how well could I really fight off a dog like that. And he had some decent jump scares. He was literally jumping through windows. Like he got like things were not taking him out. He got beat down multiple times every time he got back up. So that was pretty scary. Like that dog was relentless. So I understand the fear in that. So I put him at number 6. Now in our top 5, number 5 is Jack Torrance. Again, he's only as scary as the fact that he is like an abusive dad, a bad husband. But I give it's all really in Jack Nicholson's acting that I'm like, first off, the way his eyebrows are just so like he looked insane. It was terrifying. So I would say that he was scary. Scary in his own right. Next up was 4 was interesting because on the Dish Network list they said the Tasmanian Devil. That's who was the villain for Creepshow, but for me, it was the cockroaches. So I put Tasmanian Devil / cockroach, but no matter what, that's number 4 because that made me just straight up gag. Like it wasn't scary. I guess the effects were scary. Like the Tasmanian Devil was a number 4, but if they asked me for the cockroaches, I put that in number 3. But since I'm going off of what the list they asked me, Tasmanian Devil was number 4 because he had some very good scares, popping with the box, grabbing us, clawing up like one of the students that were there. Like he was really just going in on some people. So that made it kind of scary. I was like, okay, like I would I would rather fight Cujo than a Tasmanian Devil. But I'd also rather fight the Tasmanian Devil than cockroaches. That's a fact. Number 3, I put Annie Wilkes from Misery. She was scary because she's scary because she was clearly weaponizing his disability, his fractured legs, and that's terrifying. Like, because the scariest part was the fact that you couldn't really do anything. I am strapped to this bed. My legs are just fractured. Like, it's literally just, you might as well just give me a bag of crushed up chicken bones. That's what his legs were. And that was terrifying because you couldn't do anything. You were stuck in this unhinged woman's house. Like, if I was in his situation, all I could do was just poop myself over and over again, and hopefully that she would just dump me outside because she got sick of me. That's the most I could think of doing. Yeah, that was scary. Number 2 is Pennywise, and number 1 is Pennywise. Can you guys guess which one is Bill Skarsgård and which one is Curry? You guys lock in your answers? Okay. Number 2 is Tim Curry. Now, I'm only ranking them in scariness, right? Tim Curry wasn't that scary because he was kind of sillier than Bill Skarsgård, but I give him props in the sense that the silliness is almost scary in its own right of like, this man is playing in my face right now. Like this clown man just keeps joking with me, and that's the issue. Skarsgård's Pennywise is much more fear forward, like I'm really like trying to kill you and toy with you as you go. But this one's like, but Tim Curry is like, I'm trying to laugh. I'm trying to get a good laugh here. I'm trying to scare you definitely, but I'm gonna laugh while I do it. I'm gonna have a little chuckle. Like, that's what he was literally doing. That's what made him so scary, because I was like, whoa, like, I think that would make it almost all more stressful that this eccentric clown is really just toying with me. So I put him at number 2, whereas number 1 goes to Skarsgård. I think, first off, he was almost made to be a Pennywise, with the fact that his eyes just naturally do that. His facial structure really just kills it. He has a great command of his face to really add on that extra sense of fear. He did a great job with that. And yeah, I give him major props to that. And also, again, the other props goes to the visual department that really amps up Pennywise's insane ability to shape and morph into these disgusting things, and it really adds on to the fear factor. He's scary, and I'll give him. And I think about in It Chapter 1, while I didn't rewatch it for the marathon, I remember the scene where there was the headless boy running down the stairs in the library, and that scared the life out of me when I saw it in the theaters. It's some scary moments. This Pennywise utilizes the shape-shifting aspects more, and I think that's a little bit more scarier for me, if it can specifically shapeshift into the things that scare me, like cockroaches in Creepshow. So I have to crown Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise as number 1 as the scariest villains of the marathon. So, with all that being said, let's look at the stats. 13 movies down, with each one of those 13 movies a whopping 34 jump scares. Approximately 2 jump scares per movie, 2 to 3 jump scares per movie. The highest jump scares being Carrie, Pet Sematary, and Salem's Lot. Carrie and Pet Sematary I'm happy with. I'm fine with that. They deserve their jump scares. Salem's Lot makes me angry. I'm like, dang, you got me good. The lowest being Dr. Sleep and Firestarter with 0. Both of those did not scare me. Firestarter is fine that it didn't scare me, because, again, I feel like it was almost going for more of a sci-fi element with a little bit of an action-adventure type deal. That's all I got. But Dr. Sleep, it was an unfortunate bummer because all their jump scares were recycled. You can't reuse the same one. I saw it already. I knew what you're going to try to jump me with. So that was unfortunate. And to rank them, I have a hard time kind of ranking them, because I think that some of the movies offer different likes, because I would definitely say my number 1 favorite movie would be Misery. Yeah, I really liked Misery. I think that it was a suspenseful, good movie all the way through. Second up being Christine. For different reasons, not necessarily scary or suspenseful per se, but just something was about it was just so entertaining to watch, almost satisfying. What I'll do is go check out my Letterboxd. I haven't logged them in just yet. I'm gonna log them in once I'm done with this video, and I'm gonna make a list where I can adjust them and put them up and down. Go check out my Letterboxd so you can get some of the full reviews. I'll be doing that very soon, and I think that you can get a much more in-depth thought process as I type them out and really think about it. But that pretty much wraps it up. So overall, like I said, I think I did jump a decent amount. There were some pretty scary movies in there that I really enjoyed. Some were maybe a little bit more duds, I guess you could say, than others. But overall, I was so happy to do this. It was an honor, honestly. I mean, I'm the 3rd winner of this entire contest, and they're gonna have an article about me coming up, which I'm very excited. I'll notify the channel once it comes out. But it was fantastic. It was a great time overall. So shout out again, Dish Network and Stephen King for making this happen. Well, guys, with that being said, the sun has gone down, and I'm feeling tired. It is only 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock on the dot right now, and it looks like it might as well be 10 o'clock. It might as well be midnight, and the darkness is creeping into my soul. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end this video here, because I have about 3 hours of footage to sort through. This was a longer video, so thank you guys all for sticking around and watching it, and also thank you guys for even sticking around for waiting to hear these results. I'm speechless. Thank you guys so much for sticking around, and I hope you guys stick around even more after this. I have some pretty fun video ideas on the way. let me guys know what you guys want to see, what you want to see more of. Because yeah, I pretty much had to put the whole channel on hold to do this whole little project contest things. But back to your regular scheduled programming after this. So I will see you all in my next video. I hope you guys enjoyed your October and are enjoying your November. I'm probably gonna be busy later on this month. You know, I got Thanksgiving stuff plans, but enjoy your November, enjoy your time, and I will see you all in my next video. Have a great day. Bye.